Hej och välkommen till WellbChannel. Idag ska vi fokusera på vad som händer i hjärnan när vi mår bra. Och för att få hjälp med det här så gästas vi idag av professor Dimitriadis från Universitetet i York. Och professor Dimitriadis är också chef för utvecklingsavdelningen på Optimal HR Group. Så jag vänder mig om och hälsar Nikolaos Dimitriadis välkommen. Good morning!
Hello, good morning, how are you?
Very fine, thank you. And I'm so pleased that you can join our little show today.
I'm very honored to be part of this. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So my first question, or rather not question, but could you please tell us a little bit about your work on the nature and study of emotions and feelings?
So I've devoted myself to neuroscience for the last 16 years, I would say. And me and my teams, we have up to now managed to scan more than 6,500 brains from 25 countries around the world. My work is mainly in what is called neuromarketing. So we scan brains to see reactions to marketing stimuli, marketing campaigns, prices, experience, customer experience settings, etc. But also I've been very interested, and I would say me and my team, we do pioneering work in what is called neuro-HR, or the neuroscience of leadership. There we have scanned also brains inside the company to understand how people react to various situations within the company. So I've been, as I said, I've been quite fanatic about the brain. And as we say in neuroscience, the brain loves to learn about itself. So it's quite self-evident why we love listening and learning about the brain.
So I can hear some passion here. So what happens in your brain right now when you are talking passionate about your research? Could you explain that to the viewers? What actually happens in the brain when you feel good?
When you feel good, well, I think it's key to discuss about motivation, what makes our brain tick, and what gives all this energy. Because very important point that I've learned about the brain all these years that I do either academic or business work with the brain is that the brain manages energy. This is one of the very early insights that really captivated me about the brain. You know, we go through life believing that we have unlimited energy and it's all about how much we want to do and this abstract willpower, and if we put our minds into this, we are unlimited and unstoppable, and that's not the case. The brain has a daily amount of energy to devote on the various things that it wants to do, from the very simple but very important fact of keeping you alive, you know, managing all the bodily processes, to the energy we want to spend on the things that we like doing, on our family, our work, our next deadline, or the PPT that we need to prepare. So it's key to understand this about yourself, so to help your brain manage the energy more efficiently and more effectively. For example, if we had this meeting and I already consumed my energy in tough meetings, in demanding presentations to clients, in very important conversations with my family, then even if I'm in front of you and I want to devote myself and try to bring out the best that I can in this conversation, I will not. And this is simple physics and biology. So the brain has to manage this energy. And as I said, it has to keep some parts of this energy to do some very important biological survival stuff, and to have some remaining energy to devote in things like what we are doing today. So we need to reserve, to help the brain reserve and direct this energy where we want it to be. And to be very, very careful of where we spend this energy, how we replenish this energy, and to minimize these energy devouring activities, and to keep this energy for activities that really add value to us and to the people around us. So I wouldn't be able to have this passion if I didn't reserve or help my brain direct the energy where it should be.
Okay.
This is lesson number one.
Yeah, and because when I do something that is interesting, when I meet a patient that tells me the story of their life, and I get really when I become, very, very interested in this person and the story of this person's life, or I feel kind of flow, a state of flow. I'm in the zone. What is actually happening in my brain when I feel this? Being in the zone, when I'm totally disappears. The patient is the only thing that is in front of me that is important, and I feel a lot of energy. We were talking about energy before, and I can feel maximum energy here. What is happening in my brain?
This is a very important question, and there is a lot of studies and a lot of interest globally about this optimal model of performance. Flow. And there has been a lot of research through psychology and through neuroscience as well. There has been a project called if I remember correctly, the Neuroscience of Flow project, which tries to understand exactly what is happening in the brain during the flow stage. We don't have the full answer now, but what we understand is that the brain becomes an optimal tool for the purpose of the moment. Time, the perception of time changes. The way that the brain focuses on specific information changes. The ability of the brain to devote energy on the moment that we're discussing changes. The learning capacity of the brain changes. So there is a multi-level or multi-layered activity within the brain that creates what we call flow, or this optimal mode of performance. Definitely, in order to get into flow, interest is very important. You have to be really into the topic, and to have a strong, I wouldn't use the word interest, I would go beyond, and I would probably use the word purpose. So it's a deeper meaning that captivates us, which the brain considers as crucial. Now, this is something that I usually present to people and talk to people within companies and generally in society, and they're usually surprised. And I'm trying to explain that in order for the brain to really focus and go into the states that we are discussing, it needs to perceive something as crucially important, not just superficial academic analytical interest, not just a simple curiosity. Although curiosity is a very important part, it's important, but it's not sufficient. It's necessary, but not sufficient. You need to have a deeper connection on what you consider as crucial or important or integral to the nature of you, to what is happening outside of you. When we have this integration between what is happening in the outside world and what the internal world, the brain-body system, considers important, then we go into the flow state. It goes beyond interest. It has to do with who we are in our inner essence. And this overlap between what we consider our inner essence and what is happening outside, this intersection between these two is where miracles happen, where magic happens.
So it's about this intersection, it's about energy. I'm talking about well-being, of course. So well-being is, in your terms, is about this intersection that you talked about, and it's also about energy, the focus of your energy. Is it possible to measure this in any way?
So I think this is the exciting times we are living in. Finally, after so many years, I would say millennia of exploration of what makes us human, how the mind works, how emotions are created, how behavior is driven, what drives behavior. In the beginning, we had philosophers. Philosophers were, let's say, the psychologists of the era. Then we had what we called psychology the last 100 years. And now finally, we have neuroscience that opens the possibility of not only thinking, pondering, and observing these phenomena, but actually objectively and scientifically measuring them. And I think this is the great revolution of our times. And Thomas, I'm not the only one that believe that neuroscience and the ability to finally measure the biology of all these phenomena is really profound. It's as what happened with evolution and natural selection from Darwin. The revolution that natural selection and evolution theory brought, and finally said, "Hey, human, you're not so unique in nature. There is a biological natural process that brought you here." Or when we abandoned the idea that our rock, Earth, is in the center of everything and everything else goes around us, and then we understood that the Earth is not the center of the universe. Actually, we are also the third rock of the sun, going around what we call heliocentrism, and goes on. And all these revolutions of understanding of who we are were so profound in order to put humans in the right perspective in the grand scheme of things. And neuroscience is equally important, because finally it comes and says, wait, all these ideas, discussions, philosophies, observations, theories you had, maybe some of them are correct, some of them might not, but now we can finally bring the science of measurement objectively, tangibly, all this that we are talking about. It's not just some theory, some idea, some observation. So actually what we can do today that we could never do before is create an environment in our lives every day, while we work, while we go home, while we drive, while we travel, while we watch TV, while we are looking at our social media, or in a lab, and really listen to these subtle but very, very real signals that our body and our brain are giving on the state of our body and our brain.
So how could we use this data in order to increase our well-being?
I'll give you a very simple example. If I'm your patient and you're kind of diagnosing me with burnout, it's already too late. Because if burnout, anxiety, depression, these very important symptoms and conditions of my mental and emotional health, when these are being developed, my brain and my body emits signs of it, but unconsciously. And these sensors, this technology that we now have, can help us detect early these signals, these signs that depression, anxiety, burnout are actually about to become very strong. And before I even become slightly aware that I have these upcoming conditions. And this is the great promise of this technology concerning well-being, mental health, and emotional health. That we can very early. It's like if you visit your cardiologist, and you go to your usual checkup, and the cardiologist uses the technology to detect early signs of maybe problems with your heart. You might not feel almost nothing, you might feel okay, but the cardiologist might say, I see here some slight jumps. Maybe we should early take some medication. It's the same with our physical health, with mental health and emotional. Technology is now advanced enough to do this leap between the cardiologist and the trust we have with the cardiologist. Oh, I have some early signs of some maybe problems with the heart. Let me take care. The same will happen. It's happening now with emotional and mental health.
So to conclude things here, it's like an early warning system. Would you say that?
Correct. I would say definitely, but if we look at it a little bit more holistically, I would say is a holistic management system of our mental and emotional health. This holistic management system has many stages. There is diagnostics, which of course can lead to prevention. There is management within the condition. There is also after the condition, to make sure you are rehabilitating correctly and that you're taking the right steps. So I see this as an early stages of a next step in our human evolution, especially social and personal evolution, which will help us as societies and as people, as families, as companies, as teams, as citizens, to finally understand that our body and our brain know better. And if we listen to them, as we listen for physical diseases, if we do the same for the emotional and mental conditions, we will manage to do amazing stuff. Just if you let me give you a very concrete example, which I found fascinating. In schools, we are doing our best to detect early signs of suicidal tendencies, right?
Yes.
If kids, some kids maybe try to commit suicide. And traditionally, we do this either by observation. We are looking at if some kid is alone, maybe has early signs of depression, maybe the thing that they draw or how they interact with observation, or with self-reporting. We go and we discuss with kids, maybe a psychologist or a therapist, and we try to get out of them some information. And today we have the ability, with the usage of electroencephalogram, just 5 minutes, kids in front of a laptop that flashes emotionally related stimuli, just 5 minutes in front of a laptop, and through reading of electroencephalogram, we can determine if a kid will have suicidal tendencies. And the experiment is like this. They took kids that had diagnosed with suicidal tendencies and kids that did not. They mixed them and they did this test with the electroencephalogram. Only based on the results of these 5 minutes in front of the laptop, the scientists said, okay, based on what I see in the laptop, these are the kids with suicidal tendencies, these are the kids without. What was, Thomas, the degree of accuracy? 91%.
91. Whoa.
91. This is the best measurement, the best kind of prediction about possible, mental, emotional, and physical harm for these kids. So actually, we are very close to the era where the kids will go to school, stay in front of a laptop for 5 minutes, wearing electroencephalogram, no discussion needed, no observation needed. Of course, we have to use all data. I'm not against other types of data, but it's becoming so accurate. 91%. If this is not a revolution, what is?
Yes, it's absolutely stunning, I think. It's because this seems like to be the perfect preventive tool in order to, decrease the rising level of mental illnesses in the world. My brain is going into overload now, I think. But it's been so nice talking to you, and I've learned a whole great deal. So thank you so much for your time, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And I wish you a pleasant day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ja, det där ni tittare, det var ju en rejäl dos kunskap om hur vår hjärna fungerar relativt välmående. Och också lite grann vad framtiden kanske har att bjuda på då det gäller prevention av psykisk ohälsa. Tack för att du har tittat, och på återseende i nästa avsnitt.